Welcome to the AdSense Flippers podcast. Are you sick and tired of gurus who have plenty of ideas but are short on substance? Worried that ebook you bought for $17.95 won't bring you the personal and financial freedom you long for? Hey, you're not alone. Join thousands of others in their pursuit of niche profits without the bullshit. Straight from your hosts, Justin and Joe of AdSense Flippers.
Welcome to episode 20 of the AdSense Flippers podcast. I'm your host, Justin Cook, and I'm here with Joe Hot Money Magnotti. What's up, buddy?
Hey, everybody.
So we've got a great episode lined up for you. We're going to get back to basics. We've got an interview on link building that you don't want to miss. That's in the heart of this week's episode. But first off, we've got some news and updates. And as always, let's start with some iTunes reviews.
Hit me up, buddy.
We got a 5-star iTunes review from Sonic Eric. He says, "You guys rock. Keep the great info coming. First thing I do every Tuesday is check to see if the new podcast is out yet." Well, it's out, buddy. We're ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, thanks for that, man.
Also, we had an email from Mally in the UK, and Mally said, "Hey, you're not giving us any love in the UK. We've got some UK 5-star iTunes reviews for you as well." So I want to make sure I read that out from Mally. First one, we've got Dave Tudor, so that's a great listen, 5 stars. We got Rob Wilson saying, "At last, someone talking about AdSense as a business." We've got Christopher Moss, enjoyable and inspirational. We've got Chris52, says it's a great podcast. And we've got TeamBoom.net, said inspired me. And Beefy's characters, straight to the itch content. Not too bad, huh?
Yeah, loving the international love out there, and it's nice that one of our readers pointed that out.
I love the Beefy's characters, man, with the little funny pictures of us on Facebook, dude. That's awesome. I love his work, dude. It's really, really cool.
So we're doing a Hire Me page, Justin. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so here's the deal. It's kind of a consulting page. We're not exactly sure we want to take this yet, but here's our thinking. First step is email support. So, I mean, we get emails from a lot of people that have like one question or, they had, something about our process they want to know a little bit more about. That's fine. We handle those emails, no problem. But the ones where we get 18 bullet point emails, right, with all the follow-up questions, and those are pretty intense. So we were thinking what we can do is offer a way to, pay for our time. Now, we love free. We're big fans of free. We put all our information out for free. But when we're handling just one person and we're not putting it out as a blog post or a podcast, we're not getting the same oomph. We're not helping as many people. So I was thinking we could charge for that as kind of a consulting email.
Yeah, also I think there's people out there that probably have thought, well, I don't want to bother those guys. They seem really busy. And in this case, they'd pay us and they shouldn't feel bad about it.
Yeah, not bothering me at all. The next thing is we have a 2-hour consulting call where basically we can get on the phone and help maybe with one particular part of the process. So if they're stuck on content management or link building or something they need some help with that's very specific or they have a unique problem, we can get on the horn with them and help out. Then we also have a 6-hour consulting call where basically if they want us to run through the entire building of sites with them, we'll sit down, go over via Skype and build the sites out, their own sites with them, which I think is pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's more of almost a coaching kind of aspect, right?
Yeah, like a one-on-one thing. So I think that'd be great. We've got that. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. People can check it out if they're interested. And give us some feedback on the sales page. I'm not very good at the whole sales pagey kind of thing. Let me know what you think. Next point I want to talk about is a couple of changes from Google. Dumb, right?
Oh, no.
Yeah, Google beating us up a little bit. So the first thing is April 19th, there was a Google parked domain issue where a bunch of people's sites were dumped in the rankings because Google put in a new change that was looking for parked pages. They've since corrected that. They've made some changes, and then they added the Penguin update on April 24th, right?
Yeah, that was the big one.
Yeah, so we're hearing a lot of people that go, "Oh, my rankings are hurt. It's this, that, and the other." We've seen a bit of that too. We've seen a lot of change in the rankings for our site. So we've seen some go way down. We've seen some go way up. Overall, net, a slight difference, is slightly lower on our income is what we're noticing. We're not sure how it's going to play out yet, though, so we've given it a few days now, and it seems to be just slightly under, but we're going to continue to monitor that and let you know kind of where we're at.
Yeah, I would say, though, there's a lot of doom and gloom out there about this, Justin. It's not that bad. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of niche sites. You can still make money from small, mini niche sites on the internet.
Yeah, or expanding authority sites. I mean, there's lots of different ways to skin the cat, right? So, I mean, yeah, the people saying that the sky is falling or, SEO's dead, I mean, that seems a bit ridiculous.
Yeah, now, what did the Penguin update specifically go after?
It went after spun content. So they gave a few examples, and I'll link to that in the show notes as well, but really horribly spun content or like really spammy links where it's kind of thrown into the content, not really, it's like nonsensical. They gave examples of that. I think some of that, I mean, in addition to the blog network, some of the like really crappy article directories they're talking about them going after, which we'll talk about toward the end of the episode on some changes that we're going to be making, but we're going to talk about our new link building strategy here as well. But yeah, I mean,
and then duplicate content too, right?
Duplicate content too. I mean, that's one of the things we were looking to change, is that right now we have our homepage content is actually in a post, and it has its own longer URL and points to the homepage. We want to 301 that to the homepage, so that we've noticed a problem where we think it might be duplicate content on some of our sites, and we're going to see if we can fix that, if it makes a difference or not. Yeah. We noticed that on some of the sites that we had go down on the rankings, that might have been a problem, so we'll have more on that later. The last point we wanted to hit you up with is an update to our link building strategy. You know, talking about like submit your article and UAW, I know we've got a couple of emails from people saying that UAW has taken a real hit recently. I know that submit your article, if you put some of the links in the content, they submit to some other blogs, right? And they're not their own blog network, but it's other people's blogs, and some of those may be bad neighborhoods. I don't know, I'm kind of down on the whole... I'm just down on link building right now, to be honest with you. The whole deal, everything, all of that stuff, I'm kind of down on right now.
Yeah, it seems like they're finding a way to go after unnatural links. I'm not sure how they're doing that algorithmically, but they're doing it somehow, and the best way is to make your links look as natural as possible.
We'll give you just kind of a preview of what we're thinking right now, and this is not at all fleshed out, and we have not implemented it yet. But one of our ideas is to take like really good like 10 options. So like Squidoo, Hub Pages, eZine articles, have 10 options total, have 5 different profiles or authors, right, that we use. And then what we do is for every site, they get 4 to 5 what I'll call tier 1 like pillar links, right? Unique content, good content, and those are linking to our niche sites. Now our niche sites are pretty basic. They're going after really like, you know, low-hanging fruit kind of terms, so they don't need a ton of link building. I mean, honestly, a lot of our links, right, don't even get indexed, right? So these will definitely get indexed, and we maybe only have a few of them, but they're really strong pillar links. What we can do is after 3-4 months, if we need to boost the link building, what we can do is build links to those tier 1 or those pillar links, and then make them more popular, you know, give them more juice.
Interesting, and we're going to do this all manually too, right?
Yeah, manually, no spinning, no articles, submissions. We're going to go old school. That's what we're thinking. We still haven't fleshed that out, and we'll definitely have more updates on that in the future. But yeah, we want to get away from anything that's even semi-close to spammy, spun, automated, any of that. So we really want to get away from that and go towards the manual stuff. So let's go ahead and get started. We've got a back to basics link building interview, and let's get started with the heart of this week's episode.
The AdSense Flippers Podcast.
All right, we're excited to have Joseph Archibald from josepharchibald.com here today. We're going to be talking to him a little bit about link building strategies, the different types of things he used to help get his sites ranked, and I'm really excited to have him on the program. What's going on, Joseph?
Hi, Justin. Hello, Joseph. Very well. Here in Malaysia, here in Kuching in Malaysia. Very, very warm today.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, get started really quick. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, where are you from originally? What the heck are you doing in Malaysia? That kind of thing.
Originally from Scotland, where I spent most of my life working slave labour, and went to college, went to university for a few years. Didn't really use that much. Then went down to England for about 8 years and did some terrible jobs down there. And then I realised that I had to escape from doing that. I did some network marketing for a while as well, and that kind of first came into the idea of websites and making money from websites when I was doing that. That would be about 8 years ago, I think. And it was kind of like bit me from then onwards. I was aware of it. I couldn't progress from there because I didn't have enough knowledge about HTML code and various things. It just didn't really hit home.
What did you start off building? Like, how did you... When you said, okay, I want to do something online, did you build a website? Was it a niche site, or was it more like, you know, informational? What were you doing?
As far as I remember, I think it was a Jim Edwards product that I bought probably about 5.5 years ago. And I decided that I would try and follow that through. It was a set of 5 DVDs. And then it was just a case of following that through, and it was HTML coding basically. So that was the first site that I actually made. And I just didn't know how to rank it. I didn't know how to get people to it. So I thought, oh, well, here's another problem.
Joseph, this is Joe. Just so we can distinguish ourselves, I'm Joe and you're
Sure.
But, you've got the funny accent. I've got the American one.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
So, we found that keyword research is our first step to getting sites ranked. What do you think holds more weight after that, the on-site or the off-site SEO?
Well, the way Google are saying these days, they're putting emphasis on the on-site, and they're saying that it shouldn't necessarily be a backlinking so much, but it is, Google are notorious for telling tales of war or whatever you want to call it. So it's still very much about the backlinking, and it really depends. In your line of business, obviously you're looking for very low-hanging fruits, so
probably a good thing that Google's looking at on-site SEO. They want to get the sites ranked that have the better content, right? So I get that. And they don't want the sites, to be on the second or third page that should really be up there. I think with our process, the fact that we go after, you're right, these really mini niche keywords is what helps us get ranked, and not so much the on-site or the off-site SEO. It'd be interesting to see how that changes. But, one of the reasons we're having you on the program is we're big fans of your backlinking strategy. It's your backlinking strategy, but it was, popularized by Pat Flynn when he did the backlinking strategy that works. And a lot of that from a WarriorForum post that you had done showing how you can get ranked, and it involved a lot of different things. How did you come up with that strategy? How did you put that together and figure it out? Was it in the thread itself, or was it before that?
What happened was I used to frequent lots of forums, internet marketing forums, and I used to buy tons of glossy ebooks and all sorts of things because I was desperate to get some success at SEO in Google, and no matter how much I tried, it just never seemed to work out. But slowly and surely I pieced parts that seemed to be working together. One of the main strategies was John X Factor. You know who I mean? Yeah,
he had a big... Yeah. I was getting started, yeah.
Yeah. Now I looked into his stuff, and I joined the forum there as well. And I just kind of was watching what other people were doing and on that forum, and they were getting some results, but it was pretty low-end stuff, and I was thinking, well, there has to be more to it than this. So I started adding up other stuff that I'd learned over the years, basically, by then, to come up with something of a different strategy, even though one or two people have said, you've copied somebody else's strategy, but that's not the case at all. As far as I knew at the time, it was just something that I came up with, and no big deal, it worked. And yeah, I basically decided, I'd just do the WarriorForum thing, and I wasn't intending to make any money from it, nothing at all. It was just for fun, really, to let other people who were struggling with backlinking and seeing success. I just wanted to allow them a bit of insight, if you like, just so they could take that strategy and then use it for themselves and progress from that.
We're going to link to that WarriorForum post in the show notes. People can take a look. I warn you, it's pretty long, but very detailed. It's got some great information, and it's kind of the tier 1, tier 2 idea. What I really love about it, though, is it's so diversified, but again, with that comes some cost. So
now, tell us, though, Joseph, with all the recent changes in Google, like the over-optimization penalty, blog networks being de-indexed, do you think the strategy is still effective?
Yeah, Joe, I know it is. I did a recent study, actually. It's based very much on 40 days thing that I did, and yeah, it's working. The rankings are coming along. Actually, there's been minimal work on this I made specifically for this particular adventure, if you like, but the rankings are coming along very well indeed, and it's based on very much the same idea, then the same way of backlinking. It's very slow and it's very sure, and I know almost for a fact I can say, even though I'm not top 10 for anything at the moment, it's just outside, and I feel that even if I did nothing more, the rankings would probably get top 10,
I found anyone that came up with a process for doing this efficiently and sold that as a package. I would think that'd be something that'd be pretty useful. I could take this exact package, nail it down through outsourced agents, really have it down, and offer that as a backlinking package. Have you seen that?
But is somebody offering that, Justin?
Yeah, do you know of anyone that does that now, that takes your strategy, packages it up, and keeps it manual, not some SE nuke stuff, but keeps it manual and packages it off for $60, $100, whatever the price would be?
Yeah, I do. It's an expensive service, though. A couple of guys came to me a while ago and they said, can they try it? Just, if I set up a site, and in actual fact, that's the service that I was talking about here, because it's based very much on a very similar process. And the results I'm seeing from it are quite encouraging because, as I say, it's slow, but it's sure. So I think there's probably a few services there that offer. This particular one I'm talking about is expensive, very costly.
What's the price?
What was the price? $249 a month.
That's not cheap. How many sites does that cover?
Just the one.
Wow, yeah. So that probably wouldn't work for micro niche sites, but do you think your strategy overall can be effective for micro niche websites?
Well, I think I emailed you probably about a week ago or so and thinking about getting together for this, and I said that there was one weekend in particular when I was sitting thinking about the possibilities of how could this work for your sites. And yes, I think it's possible. The main problem that I saw at the time was, not that I've actually put this into practice, but the main problem I thought was kind of like pin tabs on what you've done. But then I guess that's part of your daily strategy, isn't it, really? I mean, you've got to keep very close tabs on exactly what you're doing and your progress. Otherwise, you're not going to make profit at the end of the day. So you're very good at doing that.
Yeah, we're really good with the process, and I think we could nail down the process. I think the problem with doing it for our sites is, the cost, right? If we could do something like, well, what I'd like to do is, and we could talk about this offline even after the podcast, try and come up with some kind of plan where, it's the same thing, but a much, watered down version that would be effective for the niche sites that we build. You know what I mean?
I think the cost could be kept down very nicely indeed, So it probably would be worthwhile analyzing this a bit more closely.
What do you think are the really critical components? What are the pillar links and the requirements to make that work on a smaller scale, do you think? I mean, is it the Web 2.0 Tier 1 links? Is it, which do you think are the most important?
Well, because you're not really having to link much to the actual site, then you wouldn't really have to worry too much about that. What you could do is you could actually get like a plugin for your WordPress sites and just pop this plugin on every site. And what you can do is just set that up with certain Web 2s. Mm-hmm. And then, in actual fact, it's almost like push-button profits, if you will, Basically, you just set up your accounts, and then every time you put a post up on your site, you syndicate it out to the Web 2s. So it kind of like gives you a nice link back again to your site. And then you can actually hit these Web 2s that you built just by pushing a few buttons, if you will, with other backlinks. That's
interesting. So let's say you put a new blog post up. You put a few internal links. So you're linking to the home page, you're linking to a couple other posts or whatever, and then you have that automatically syndicated to the 2.0s. What about the duplicate content problems that would come with that? Would that not be an issue, do you think?
Yeah, there is that. I'm trialing this at the moment, and so far so good. I can't say for sure. I guess if you just keep it very low, if you're just looking for low-hanging fruit, then it might work pretty well. But yeah, I mean, that is open to question.
What I like about that, though, is you're not like dumping just like crappy spun content out there. You're taking content useful from your site and syndicating it. I mean, ultimately, it seems more useful for the average web user than it would be to put, crappy spun content out there right now,
I totally agree with you, Justin, on that point. Yeah, I mean, it's quality content that's going out. So, yeah, there is that aspect to it.
Well, I think with that strategy, I mean, that would keep your costs pretty low, obviously. What in addition to that? I mean, would you build backlinks to your Tier 1s, to your Web 2.0s and that type of thing?
Yeah, that's the idea. You can use something like Backlinks Genie, which is a very powerful tool in itself. Very cost effective, really. They've also got like article directories now, and they also create Web 2s as well. So you can use them to backlink to your site. You can either use their system to spin content, which quite frankly I wouldn't trust myself, or you get your own spun content and put that up on there, which is what I prefer to do.
So you wouldn't use Backlink Genie straight to your money site, you would use that only to the Tier 1 links, is that right?
If it was a more mature site, then I'd probably use Backlink Genie to my money site, just with the articles and with the Web 2s, so, with the spun content that I've created myself or outsourced myself. That's what I would do. But if it's a site like what you're working on, then no, I would certainly hesitate about using Backlink Genie to link straight to the money site.
Interesting. So what do you think you could get the bare minimum spend down to? I mean, if we had to strip your process down and make it into a absolute bare minimum, how much do you think we could spend per site in order to do that?
I don't know. I'd have around about $12 per site.
Oh, well, that's very interesting. That's kind of in the wheelhouse of micro niche sites when you're building them out at scale. So that definitely would work.
Yeah, here's the thing. I mean, ultimately, we're all about ROI. I wouldn't mind spending $300 per site if it was getting me a big return, right? Right now, if we can spend $50 and get $10 a month sites that's great. I mean, I'd spend, $300 if I was getting $60 a month site. So it's all about scale. But I mean, at least at this point, we'd like to keep our backlinking costs under $30. And if you think we could do something effective for $12 to $20, it's definitely something we should talk about for sure.
Yeah, well, just moving along a little bit, I was also thinking about how we have access to all this cheap labor here in the Philippines. We have talented people. They're skilled at doing all this stuff. And so when we talk about these kind of money deals, we usually involve a lot of manual labor because we like to avoid automation and tools at all possible, because we feel it leaves a more natural footprint if you do it all manually. I mean, what do you think in terms of link building? Do you prefer automated tools? Do you like to do it manually? What do you think?
No, I think the more automation you can use, the better, providing it's still producing good content. I'm not really one for chucking out any old dross onto the web. A lot of people criticize that, and that's fair play. But yeah, if you can automate things, then all the better, really, because you'll probably get a better return on investment.
Yeah, I mean, I love the speed and the push button that comes with automation, but I always worry that it leaves too big of a footprint, that to make it too obviously spammy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it can do that. Yeah, I guess so. You just have to be very careful about what you're doing.
What tools do you think are problematic and should be avoided?
Now you're asking. I have so many tools over the years, Joe, that I can't even remember the half of them, Sometimes when I've seen that other people are having good success with various tools and I've tried them and I find that they're not working for me, so I don't know why it is, but it varies quite a bit as well, you know what I mean?
It does seem a little bit that whatever tool is really effective and really working, all the internet marketers head over to that, and then that doesn't work anymore, right? I mean,
yeah, it's a great example, right?
Yeah,
BMR,
and then it stops working, and now everyone's looking for the next, best and greatest thing. What I'm realizing, in my being naive, old school processes and link building still work, right? So old school archiving, setting nice pillar links to your site, that's still effective, and it's been effective for a long time. Yeah. I'm thinking the shortcuts are probably not such a good idea. Definitely not long term.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's no doubt about it. I mean, article marketing, I know a lot of people criticize the UAW tool, Unique Article Wizard, but it still works. Let's face the facts here, it still works. It might not be as good as it once was, but it still works. It's still very effective. All
right, Joseph, I got a good one for you. A lot of people talk about social signals as being key, right? And they say that that's a big effect on rankings. And I get that for large authority sites or really competitive stuff. But let's say I own a site like DUIconsequences.com or herpesandyou.com. Not a lot of people are going to be, Facebook liking and tweeting my post. You know what I mean?
Well, you can try.
It'd be interesting. But how do the odd sites that just don't get them as much social traction? I mean, if social signals are really important, do you think it's industry by industry? Are you compared to your competitor, or are you compared to other sites overall? I'm wondering, how much do social signals come into play, especially in niches that aren't very social?
Yeah, well, I tell you something. What was it, about 3 weeks ago or so, I came across this WSO. Yes, I sometimes delve into the WSOs. And Nate Rivers, have you heard of Nate Rivers?
I haven't, no.
Stray blogger. He's come up with a system, I presume it's his, and basically what he's doing is he's building up niche sites, probably very similar to your own niche sites as well, that sort of thing. But what he does is he builds them out with content that's very much what can be leveraged, if you like, by things like Twitter and Facebook. So it's not all monetized stuff. A lot of his pages are not monetized. It's much more about being social friendly. But he also puts in a bunch of monetized pages, and then he links all his non-monetized pages to the monetized pages and kind of funnels traffic that way. And apparently that's working out pretty well these days. There's quite a few people jumping onto that bandwagon saying they're seeing quite a bit of success, which is interesting.
It'd have to be kind of related, though. Otherwise, you're getting just kind of random traffic, right?
Yeah, it is.
Funny kind of comedy stuff. That's cool, but it has to be at least in the same space. Otherwise, the traffic, sending over is not going to convert for anything.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, he's got ways and means of doing it. He says it's working out pretty well. And from what I could see, it's a good system. It's a nice idea.
I have to check that out for sure.
Interesting.
Sure.
We've been seeing a lot recently with negative SEO. There was Recently, a guy that got attacked. He was from Traffic Planet.
No, there were some guys on Traffic Planet that attacked a guy, and he ended up getting a warning through Webmaster Tools. He was a guy that said something about how he was happy that Matt Cutts shut down the blog network. So people said, oh, let's make a case study out of this guy and attack his site. So we ended up getting a message through Webmaster Tools. And then recently, like Rand Fishkin from SEO Moz put out a challenge saying, do your best to take us down. Send us all the negative SEO you want. So there's an outstanding challenge there. Do you think that works, or would it only work on less established sites? Do you think someone could take SEO Moz down, or no?
I doubt it. I think, as you say, if it's something as a so-called authoritarian as SEO Moz, then I think you've got a job on your hands. But for smaller sites that are far less mature, yeah, I think you can. I know there was a post that Mark Thompson, who you interviewed a few weeks ago, or you were on a podcast with Mark Thompson.
Yeah.
He put up a post on his blog just a couple of days ago, and what he was highlighting was that Google have changed a statement that they made initially about whether you can bring down a competitor's site by backlinking to it in a negative fashion. And initially they said, no, you can't. And then a few months later they changed that to kind of say, well, maybe you can, maybe you can't. And then now what they're saying is that you definitely can do it. Yes, it can be done, apparently.
What do you think Google's thought is there? Why would they make that okay? What's their gain, do you think?
Oh, there's a good question. I really don't know. I don't mean to kind of go on about Google in a negative fashion like what most of us do, and I certainly do as well, but a lot of what they tell you initially is kind of like hot air. You know, that they're just trying to protect themselves.
I think
that's what I feel.
Maybe they're thinking that is that most people aren't going to do it to an SEO Moz or to or they might to SEO Moz because they're an SEO company, but they're not going to do it to the New York Times. Or New York Times is so safe it's not even an issue. The only people who are going to do it are these low-level internet marketers, and so they figure let them cannibalize each other and hurt each other and knock all the spam out themselves. Do you know what I mean? That might be their strategy. Let them knock each other out and we'll keep all the good sites.
Still, though, I think Google has to address this because eventually somebody with access to cheap labor is going to get the idea in their head that if they're not nice guys like we are, they could take that cheap labor and use it very effectively to attack very expensive niches and knock all the competitors out except for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, they've got to come up with an answer with that, I'm sure. They've discussed it.
Well, apparently, according to Mark Thompson, he said that some people have found there's certain services on Fiverr.com being offered to take down your competition for $5. So yeah, it's now available.
Well, Fiverr has some crazy stuff anyway. I mean, there are posts on Fiverr that say, pay me $5 and I'll make sure I get you $15 worth of AdSense clicks. Right? I mean, that's just like a pig tree. I'll just keep going back to them over and over again, and I'll invest tens of thousands of dollars in that and make myself a killing. Yeah, not such a good idea.
No, it's not.
Let me ask, so before we get out of here, what do you think your top 2 tips are for people that are building mini niche sites? What's your best link building advice?
Top 2 tips. I would say that what you should be doing is paying attention more to the social media these days. Yes, call it what you will, the Facebooks, the Twitters. One that I think people in our line of business should be paying even more attention to is Google+. I think you're making a major mistake if you do not pay attention to what's going on there. It's still early days. Currently doing a bit of a study on my own blog about it, just to kind of like chip beneath the surface and see how it works and what have you. But I sense that Google Plus are going to be a pretty major game changer. I know a lot of people will say, oh no, here we go again, another Facebook or whatever, but no, it's not. This thing's going to be a different ball game to Facebook. I think it's going to be far stronger as far as internet marketing is concerned.
There's room both Google Plus and Facebook, or do you think one's going to devour the other?
I'm not really too sure. I think they're quite different entities, to be honest, even though there seems to be quite a lot of competition now. But Facebook is it's not a search engine, is it? But whereas Google Plus, it can be used as a search engine. So they're quite different facilities, if you like, I don't know. For me, Facebook's not really too much of an SEO. I mean, yes, I share my stuff from my blog onto Facebook nowadays, and there's nice glossy pictures and everything else, but I don't really use it for SEO. Never have, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we use Facebook just for reaching out a bit, and like just share some complete photos, that kind of thing. But we haven't used it for link building either, but I'd be interested to see how that plays out. Let me ask you, Justin, To get in touch with you, what's the best way to reach you?
What, you want my phone number, dude?
Blood type,
Yeah, I don't think you give that out on the podcast.
Address, buddy.
No.
We'll call you some questions.
I can never remember it anyway, so... Yeah, the best way would be through my blog, I would imagine, as you mentioned at the start, josepharchibald.com. If you can spell Archibald, when people are searching for it, there's a lot of misspellings there for Archibald.
I believe it. I would have trouble with that one, as I am a horrible speller. So what can our listeners expect if they read your book, the Warrior Forum 40-Day Challenge?
I suppose in a sense it's kind of like, if you like, it's old-fashioned ways that still work, like what we were talking about, like article marketing. It's based on these fairly old-fashioned ways. Old in the sense that, they've been around for a few years, not really old as such. But they still work. They work very well, as I was saying. So it's quite a lot of hard work if you follow it point A to point B, but there's certain tools around like Backlinks Genie, which I mentioned, which you can use for this strategy nowadays. And there's various ways and means that you can change it a little bit and make it a lot less work for yourself without having to outsource even. So it doesn't have to be expensive either. But yes, it works.
I'm going to end up picking up a copy of your book. I get a discount too, right? How much are we getting off, Joseph? Give us a deal, buddy.
Well, a discount to you, 5%. How does that sound?
Sweet Lord. Come on, man. You better than that for our listeners.
Yeah.
Say 60%.
Yeah, I said 60% in my email, so that's fine.
All right, man. We're going to check it out myself. I'll see what I think. I'm digging the older backlinking strategies. I want to go back to, what's worked for a long time. I'm over the shortcuts and the quick gains. Now, let's go old school.
Yeah, if you think about it, what we were doing last year, Justin, was working better for our site, so we should probably go back to that.
Agreed.
That's interesting.
Joseph, I love having you on the podcast. It's been fantastic. Thanks for sharing with us and our listeners about your backlinking strategies. It's been really helpful.
Thanks,
cool.
man.
It's been great being here.
All right, thank you.
Bye-bye now.
The AdSense Flippers podcast continues.
Well, that's it for the heart of this week's episode. Let's get right into our ninja marketing tips, tricks, and our plans for the future.
So we're going to be holding off on site sales in May.
Yeah, we've seen a bit of a dip across the board. We're talking about income, right? Early in the program, we talked about a dip in income. We want to make sure that our sites are stable, make sure that we don't have any problems. So we're going to hold off on site sales. We've had some ones we were finishing up in April. We're pretty much going to hold off in May and just kind of see where that plays out, see where it ends up, and then probably resume in June.
Yeah, it's been really strange. Like, we saw some sites go up and some sites go down, and either way, I can't stabilize over 30 days what the price should be. So either we're losing or the customer's losing, and it's just not a good deal for both sides. And so those sites need to stay in the incubator a little bit longer before we sell them.
Yeah, let's see how it plays out, and then we'll go back to, the nitty-gritty and get back to business. A second point I want to talk about, and this is pretty interesting, is, we get a lot of emails from people saying, what do you think about this site or this keyword? Do you think I can get this ranked? Is this 4 or a 5 on your evaluation scale? And we get a lot of those. I like it, it's interesting, but it seems to be a big question, right? People are always kind of unsure about whether it's a keyword they should go for. And here's the other thing, right? This is the last bit of business that you and I are heavily involved in. You and I have to sit down every week and look at the first page and go through the process and pick the keywords that we think are going to work or not. And it's just a pain. I'd like to get rid of that pain point for me. So we think we have a way of basically evaluating the first page and seeing what we can do or seeing where we think our sites would rank based on our process. The cool part about this is we have a ton of data. Over 12,000 keywords I think we've ever researched, ever. So we can look back at these that met our criteria, look at the ones that earned well for us, and then apply our process, apply our chance to rank algorithm.
Right, kind of reverse engineer an algorithm, reverse engineer a mathematical formula that will prove success?
Yeah, if we can get over 80% of the time, our system is right, then what we can do is basically try to back ourselves out of that process and see if we can pick based on our new process. And if we have that available, we can now offer that to other people so they can plug in their keywords, their URLs, and see kind of where it falls on the scale and see if it's worth them, taking a stab at. I think that would be really, really interesting. I think a lot of people would benefit from that. And that's not just for niche sites. That would work for authority sites, anything, ranking for that particular keyword on a highly, targeted page.
Yeah, I like it. I'm going to mock up a little UI and then we'll go through it and see if we're both on the same playing field before we hire a programmer and get started on it.
Well, hell, man, if we can knock out the 8 or 10 hours that either of us is doing on the first page analysis every week, if we just did that, I'd be pretty happy with it, right? If we could knock that down to like 1 or 2 hours out of our time, it'd be fantastic. I can, get on to get my foot massages. I don't know, whatever, dude. So anyway, that's about it for this week's episode. Episode 20, man.
Yeah.
Stoked we knocked 20 out. That's pretty awesome. I like this weekly format. Seems to be going pretty well.
It is. It's great. And, I think we have plenty of stuff to talk about in the future. And like you said, we can always revisit topics that change.
Cool. Well, that's it for this week's episode 20 of the AdSense Flippers podcast. Great to have you with us. Again, you can check us out on Twitter at AdSense Flippers. We'd love to see you. And we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye, everybody.
You've been listening to the AdSense Flippers podcast with Justin and Joe. Be sure to hit up AdSenseFlippers.com for more. That's AdSenseFlippers.com. Thanks for listening.